Give me your hand! We have to move!
I'm stuck! I can't!
Pull! Now!
After the tense village meeting filled with doubt, Jack decides not to wait any longer. He understands that words no longer matter as much as actions. Early the next morning, while mist still covers the mountain slopes, Jack arrives at an empty piece of land near the center of the village. He brings a hoe and a shovel, starting to clear the grass and level the ground by himself. There are no machines, no professional construction team, just a man who was once a CEO, now bending down in the dirt, doing hard labor like a real farmer. At first, no one comes. Only the sound of metal striking soil echoes quietly in the still air. After a while, a few villagers stand at a distance, watching. They do not approach, but they do not leave either. Lytutien stands far away, silently observing Jack. She says nothing, but in her eyes there is both worry and belief. A new journey has begun. Not loudly, but with determination. About an hour passes, and Jack continues working without stopping. Sweat soaks through his shirt, his hands covered in mud, yet his movements remain steady and determined. The villagers watching from a distance begin to talk among themselves. A middle-aged man steps forward. He does not say much. He simply picks up a shovel lying nearby and starts digging alongside Jack. Jack pauses for a second, looks at him, and gives a slight nod. No words of thanks are needed, just silent acknowledgement. Soon after, another villager brings water. An elderly man sits nearby, watching and occasionally pointing out softer ground. The atmosphere begins to change, from doubt to observation, and from observation, slowly into participation. Lytutien watches everything, her expression softening. She knows trust does not come from words, it comes from actions. And today, those first actions have begun to create change. As the sun rises higher, the empty land begins to change. The grass has been cleared, and the ground is slowly leveled piece by piece. Jack kneels down, carefully placing the first stones for the foundation. He does not rush. Each stone is adjusted multiple times, making sure it is stable and aligned. The man who once managed a large company is now focusing on the smallest details as if they are the most important things in the world. The villagers begin to pay closer attention. No longer watching from afar, they move closer. Some start helping carry stones. Another brings a rope to measure distances. No one speaks much, but everyone understands this is no longer just Jack's project. Lytutien stands nearby, handing him a cloth to wipe his sweat. Jack looks at her and smiles slightly. A small foundation, but it is the foundation of trust slowly being built. By midday, the work begins to slow down. The supply of stones is not enough. Sand and cement have not arrived due to the difficult mountain roads. Some people begin to take breaks earlier than expected. The sound of tools becomes less frequent. The energy is no longer as strong as in the morning. Jack stands and looks at the unfinished foundation. He understands. This is only the first challenge. Without materials, everything could come to a halt. But he does not show frustration. He picks up his tool again and continues working on what can be done. A few villagers watch him, then return to help. Not many, but none, leave completely. Lytutien walks over. "Should we wait?" she asks. Jack gently shakes his head. "If we wait, everything stops." He looks at the ground ahead. "We do what we can first." A quiet determination, in the middle of real difficulties. In the afternoon, the sky begins to change. Gray clouds gather in the distance, slowly covering the sunlight. The wind grows stronger, sweeping across the freshly cleared ground. Some villagers stop working and look up. The atmosphere becomes heavy. Tu Tien senses the uneasiness. She walks over to Jack. "It looks like a heavy rain is coming," she says. Jack looks up as well. He knows. If rain falls now, the unfinished foundation will be at risk. But it is too late to stop completely. "Let's keep going a little longer," he says. Everyone begins working faster. Not because they are forced, but because they understand every minute matters now. The wind howls louder. A drop of rain falls, then another. The storm is approaching. Within minutes, heavy rain pours down. Water falls like a waterfall, quickly turning the ground slippery. The construction area begins to flood. The stones that were not fully secured start to shift. A section of the foundation suddenly collapses. "Watch out!" A shout cuts through the sound of rain. People quickly step back. Chaos begins to spread. Water rushes through, carrying mud and debris. Jack spots a worker standing too close to the collapsing area. Danger is closing in fast. There is no time to think. Everything happens too quickly. A single moment before action explodes. In the middle of the heavy storm, Jack sees a worker slipping near the collapsed foundation. The man tries to keep his balance, but the muddy ground makes it impossible for him to stand. Without thinking, Jack rushes forward. Rain pounds against the ground, drowning out every other sound. "My hand!" the worker shouts. Jack reaches out and grabs his arm tightly. Water rushes past them, and the ground beneath their feet keeps shifting. The distance between them and the danger zone is only a few steps. Jack grits his teeth and pulls hard. His body tenses as he struggles to keep both of them from being dragged away. People shout from a distance, but no one dares to come closer. One small mistake, and both of them could fall into the collapsing ground. But Jack does not let go. In his eyes, there is no fear now, only one determination: to save a life. As Jack pulls the worker closer to safety, his foot suddenly slips. Both of them lose their balance. A scream rises from the crowd. Jack falls, still holding tightly onto the man. Mud and water rush past, pushing them further down. Just a few more centimeters, and they would fall into the collapsing area. Jack tries to push himself up, but the ground is too slippery. He tightens his grip even more, refusing to let go. Time seems to slow down. Everything feels frozen within the storm. Finally, a few men gather the courage to rush forward. They grab both of them and pull them back to safety. Jack lies on the ground, breathing heavily, covered in mud. But his eyes remain clear. He is alive, and the worker is too. In the middle of the pouring rain, Tu Tien runs toward him. She does not care about the mud or the people around. She only sees Jack. She kneels beside him, her hands trembling. "Are you okay?" Her voice breaks. Before Jack can answer, she pulls him into a tight embrace. Rain mixes with her tears. She holds him tightly, as if afraid that letting go would make him disappear. "Are you crazy?" she sobs. Jack smiles faintly, still catching his breath. "I'm okay." He places his hand on her back, gently reassuring her. No more words are needed. That embrace says everything. In the middle of a raging storm, that moment feels strangely peaceful. The rain slowly weakens, then finally stops. The air becomes quiet again, with only the sound of water dripping from rooftops and leaves. The construction site is partially damaged. A section of the foundation has collapsed. The ground is eroded. The villagers stand there, exhausted but still present. No one leaves. Jack stands up and wipes the mud from his face. He looks around, then at Tu Tien. "We will rebuild." His voice is not loud, but it is firm. Some villagers look at him differently now. There is no more doubt, only respect. One man steps forward and says, "We will help," one by one. Others move closer. After the storm, it is not only the structure that begins again, it is trust finally being built.